Some people stand in front of an open refrigerator and simply freeze. 20 minutes pass, an app open, 12 tabs of takeout, and still nothing decided. Others open the same lunchbox without even looking down. Same sandwich, same apple, same quiet 15 minutes, completely at peace. There is a reason for that, and it changes everything. At the office, someone always notices the same lunch again. Don't you get tired of that? They ask, genuinely curious, as if variety were the only proof of a life well lived. American food culture runs on novelty, new restaurants, new cuisines, new photos. A full plate becomes content, proof of a personality worth following. Adventurous eating gets treated like a personality trait. Predictable eating gets treated like a warning sign. Rigid, boring, stuck in a rut, the assumptions arrive quickly. But look closer at who is actually saying this. The people most judged for their sameness are often the sharpest in the room, not despite the routine, because of it. Something about that quiet lunch was doing more work than it looked. What is really going on runs deeper than taste. The human mind makes thousands of small decisions before lunch even arrives. What to wear, what to say first, how to answer that one email. Each choice draws from the same small account. By midday, for some, that account is already running low. Choosing lunch feels like one more withdrawal the mind cannot afford. That is the moment the fridge stops helping and starts asking. The person with the same meal already spent that decision once. It never has to be made again. Psychologists call this decision fatigue, the quiet cost of choosing too often. Early research suggested each choice can slightly lower the quality of the next one. Some psychologists call it ego depletion, though later studies have questioned how far it reaches. Either way, the feeling is familiar to almost everyone. Barack Obama once said he only wore gray or blue suits to leave one less decision each morning. Steve Jobs did the same with his daily uniform, freeing his mind for bigger choices. Neither man called it a limitation. They called it protecting their energy for what actually mattered. The same meal every day works exactly like that gray suit. One less decision, saved for later, saved for something that counts. The mind that skips the lunch decision has more left over for everything after it. That is not a small trait, that is a strategy. But there's a second layer, and it goes further back than lunch. The world outside that lunch is rarely predictable. Demanding jobs, shifting plans, conversations that go somewhere unexpected. Meetings move, priorities change. People say things no one saw coming. By the middle of the day, very little has gone exactly as expected, except for the one thing that always tastes the same. Same flavor, same texture, same quiet satisfaction right on schedule. That is not boredom, that is an anchor. Studies indicate that consistent daily rituals lower baseline stress levels. The body seems to relax around what it can predict. One certain thing can lower the temperature of an uncertain day, not because the meal is thrilling, because it is reliable, and reliable is rare. Around the same familiar meal, the noise of the day quiets down a little. A ritual does not need to be complicated to matter. It only needs to be dependable again and again. For a mind managing constant change, dependable can feel like relief. The sameness was never the point of the ritual. The steadiness underneath it was. And steadiness, once felt, tends to carry into everything after it. What looks like monotony is often just an anchor, doing quiet work. The third reason is about something even more personal, the body. Some people did not choose the same meal by accident. They ran the experiment first, without ever calling it that. A different lunch once left them foggy by 3 in the afternoon. Heavy, distracted, slightly uncomfortable, and unable to say exactly why. Then they noticed something else. This one meal never did that. No crash, no fog, no quiet discomfort to push through. The body was keeping score long before the mind caught up. Research suggests some people process sensory information more intensely than others. Every taste, every texture registers just a little louder. Elaine Aron called this trait high sensitivity, one end of a completely normal spectrum. For these minds, food is not just flavor, it is information. How it sits, how it settles, how the afternoon feels afterward. This meal answered every one of those questions, clearly and early. So the search simply stopped. Scientists call the brain's sense of the body's internal state interoception. Some people read those internal signals with unusual clarity. They are not being picky, they are listening closely, and they found an answer that kept working. No afternoon crash to recover from, no fog to think around. That is not a small kind of self-knowledge. And the fourth layer is the one that surprises people most. There is a quiet paradox at the center of all this. The person who looks most restricted is often the one who feels most free. One mind is still standing at the fridge, weighing options. The other mind left that decision behind years ago, so it is free to be somewhere else entirely. Thinking, planning, resting, whatever the day actually needs from it. The lunch hour becomes rest, not another problem to solve. High performers across very different fields understood this long ago. Researcher Barry Schwartz called it the paradox of choice. More options do not always create more freedom. Sometimes they just create more weighing, more doubt, more delay. Freedom, it turns out, rarely comes from infinite options. It comes from knowing exactly what you want and letting everything else go quietly. A settled lunch decision leaves more room for an unsettled, creative afternoon. Constraint in the right place makes space for everything else. That is not a smaller life, that is a lighter one. The fewer decisions fighting for attention, the more attention is left to actually use. A finite budget, a steady ritual, a body that already knows, and a mind finally free. 4 reasons. One quiet decision made once. What comes next changes how all of this should be understood. Picture the fridge again, still open, still nothing decided. Picture the lunchbox again, already opened, already known. One of them is still deciding. The other decided years ago. And that is the whole difference. Eating the same meal every day was never about the food. It was about protecting the one resource no one can buy back. Attention. The meal was already solved. So the mind could finally be somewhere else. That is the whole quiet mechanism, working underneath a simple lunch. It was never a limitation being carried. It was a decision made once, still paying for itself. Is the same meal every day a system, or is it avoiding something? Only the person eating it really knows. This channel is for people who think a little differently about everything. Subscribe if the routine has always made more sense than the chaos. A new psychology video every week. Somewhere, right now, someone is still standing at an open fridge. And somewhere else, someone has already sat down. Not because the choice was small, because it was already made. The freest minds are not the ones with the most options. They are the ones who already know.